The alien trainer tested her limits, unaware it was only the beginning. Lena had always known that life on Earth could feel small. She had grown up staring at the night sky, dreaming of the stars beyond her reach. When the message arrived from the Xipherians, an advanced alien species that had been observing humanity for years, it felt like the universe itself had answered her silent wish. She was chosen to join a training program that no human had ever completed. The selection was a mixture of chance and proof that humans had untapped potential. Lena did not feel special, yet she knew this was her only chance to show what humanity could do. The station she was sent to was enormous. It floated above a bright blue and purple gas giant, a swirling mix of storms and clouds visible through the massive observation windows. The station itself seemed alive, with corridors that curved and twisted as if the building moved with a will of its own. Every surface gleamed with a metal that shimmered softly in the station's lighting. Lena's heart raced as she stepped from the small shuttle into the main hall. Her boots clicked on the polished floors. Every other trainee had already been there for weeks or months. Many were Xipherians, tall, slender beings with luminous skin and eyes that seemed to see straight into one's thoughts. Lena felt small, human, fragile. A soft, steady voice called her name. "Lena," it said, and she turned to see the trainer. Kale was taller than any human Lena had ever seen. His skin shimmered with a subtle silver light, and his eyes were sharp, piercing, and impossible to read. Every motion he made was precise, controlled, and perfectly confident. Lena swallowed hard. Kale had the air of someone who had seen the entire universe and found it ordinary. "Welcome to the Xipherian training station," Kale said. "You will be tested beyond what you think is possible. Only those who adapt, who endure, will succeed." Humans rarely last more than the first week. Lena did not flinch. "I will try," she said simply. Kale raised an eyebrow. He had expected hesitation, fear, perhaps even refusal, but she stood straight, her gaze steady. He nodded, slightly curious. "Very well. Begin with the first challenge." The first challenge was physical. Lena was led to a chamber that seemed impossibly large. The walls shifted as she looked at them, sometimes appearing closer, sometimes stretching into infinity. The floor had a soft glow that pulsed beneath her feet. Kale explained the rules. Lena was to run through the chamber, avoiding obstacles, balancing on moving platforms, and reaching the end in the fastest possible time. Gravity would shift, speeds would change, and the floor itself would move unpredictably. Lena took a deep breath and stepped forward. The floor shifted beneath her instantly, tilting as if alive. She stumbled for a moment, her heart jumping, but she quickly adjusted. Humans were not strong like Xipherians, but they were clever. She noticed a pattern in the moving platforms, a rhythm. Using it, she timed her steps carefully, leaping at the right moments, crouching at others. She felt a thrill she had never experienced before. Every leap, every landing felt like a conversation with the chamber itself. Kale watched silently. The first few Xipherian trainees had fallen almost immediately. Lena, the human, moved steadily, calculating and cautious. By the time she reached the end, her chest was heaving and her legs ached, but she had succeeded. Kale stepped forward. His voice was calm but carried a weight. "You survived the first trial. That is more than most humans ever achieve." Lena smiled slightly, wiping sweat from her brow. "I just paid attention." Kale did not respond. Instead, he led her to the next chamber. Here, the challenge was mental. A holographic display filled the room, showing impossible geometric patterns and alien symbols. Lena was to solve puzzles that tested logic, memory, and creativity. Each puzzle adapted to her responses, growing more complex the faster she solved the previous one. She sat and studied the first puzzle carefully. It looked chaotic, like shapes were spinning in 3 dimensions, colors shifting and blending. But humans had an instinct for pattern recognition that was different from alien logic. Lena noticed a small, repeated detail in the edges of the shapes, a tiny symbol that seemed out of place. She focused on that, and slowly the pattern began to make sense. Her hands moved quickly, adjusting shapes on the hologram until the puzzle glowed green. Success. Kale raised his eyebrows. "Humans rely on intuition, yes, but you use it well. Continue." Hours passed. Lena's mind grew tired, but she refused to give up. Every time a puzzle seemed impossible, she remembered something her father had told her as a child. "When you feel stuck, step back, look at the problem from a new angle." It worked. Lena completed each challenge, sometimes faster than Kale expected, sometimes slower. but always with precision. After the mental trial, Kale guided her to a simulation chamber. Here, the rules of reality could bend. Lena had to navigate a dense alien forest, with towering plants that shifted and creatures that seemed both real and holographic. The simulation tested her decision-making under pressure, her ability to predict danger, and her capacity for leadership. She was alone at first, but soon other trainees were introduced. Some were Zypherians, some were humans, all competing to complete the challenge first. Lena noticed quickly that working alone would not be enough. She had to cooperate, sometimes directing others, sometimes following, all while the environment tried to trick them. A falling tree-like structure blocked the path, and she had to signal to a Zypherian trainee to push it aside. A river that seemed impossible to cross required her to create a makeshift bridge with alien materials. Every step tested her endurance and creativity. By the end of the simulation, Lena was exhausted. Her clothes were damp with sweat, her muscles ached, and her mind buzzed. Kale approached, his expression unreadable. "You adapt quickly, human. I underestimated you." Lena managed a tired smile. "I guess I just don't give up easily." Kale studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Perhaps humans are more resilient than I believed. But this is only the beginning. You will face trials far beyond this, and the station will test not just your body and mind, but your spirit. Few survive them, few even understand them." Lena's stomach tightened. The words were not meant to scare her, they were meant to warn her. But she did not flinch. She had come this far. She had seen what humans could do when they refused to surrender. As night, or something like night in the station, fell, Lena lay on the small cot in her assigned room. The walls glowed faintly, calming her with soft light. She replayed the day in her mind, analyzing every success and mistake. She realized that every time she adapted, she had grown a little stronger, a little smarter. Every challenge had taught her something about herself, and about humans in general. Humans survived because they were not the strongest, nor the fastest. Humans survived because they never stopped thinking, never stopped trying, never stopped hoping. Kale's words echoed in her mind. This is only the beginning. She wondered what he had in store, and a small spark of excitement grew inside her. She could endure, she could adapt, she could rise to the challenge. Sleep came slowly. Lena dreamed of stars, vast galaxies, and endless possibilities. She dreamed of herself, not just surviving the Zypherian trials, but surpassing them. Somewhere deep inside, she knew that no matter how impossible the next day might seem, humans had something the aliens could not fully understand. A stubborn, relentless spark of determination. When morning arrived, the station was bathed in soft light. Lena stood at the observation window, looking at the swirling storms of the gas giant below. She clenched her fists lightly, feeling anticipation instead of fear. The next challenge was waiting. Kale would test her again, harder this time, and she would face it head-on. For Lena, the journey had only begun. The Zypherian training station was not just a place of trials, it was a place of discovery. She would discover her limits, yes, but more importantly, she would discover that the limits humans could reach were far greater than the aliens expected. And Kale, the trainer who believed no human could endure, had yet to see what Lena was truly capable of. With a deep breath, Lena stepped away from the window. She was ready. The station hummed around her, alive with motion, challenges, and opportunity. The universe had opened a door, and Lena was ready to walk through it. One step, one trial, one victory at a time. Lena woke to a soft hum that ran through the Zypherian training station. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of metal and something floral she could not identify. She stretched, feeling the soreness in her muscles from the previous day's physical trials. Her mind, however, buzzed with ideas. She had passed the first challenges, yet Kale's words kept echoing in her thoughts. This is only the beginning. She understood that what awaited her would be far more complex than running through shifting floors or solving puzzles. The hallway outside her room was quiet as Lena stepped out. The walls glimmered softly, changing color in response to her movement. She walked toward the central chamber, where Kale and the other trainees would gather. A few Zypherian trainees passed her, nodding briefly. Their expressions were polite but distant. Some had already started whispering about her progress, not all of it kind. Humans were rare in the program, and rare things often made others uneasy. Kale was waiting at the entrance to the chamber. His posture was perfect, his eyes focused as he regarded her. "Today, your trials will test more than your strength," he said. Your mind, your perception, and your decision-making will be pushed. You will need to think not just as a human, but as a strategist, a leader, and a problem solver. Many fail because they try to rely only on speed or strength. Today, you will learn the power of thought. Lena nodded. Her fingers flexed lightly. She was ready. The chamber was vast, almost cathedral-like, with a floor that stretched out into soft darkness. Holographic projections filled the space, creating a series of simulations. One moment she could see a dense alien forest, the next, a sprawling alien city with towers reaching impossibly high. Each projection moved and shifted, responding to the actions of the trainees. Lena stepped carefully into the center. Kale explained the first part of the mental trial. Each simulation contains a problem. Some are puzzles, others are tasks of strategy. You will need to analyze, decide, and act. Speed is helpful, but precision is essential. Observe carefully. Learn from every detail. Humans may be slow, but your species has an unusual adaptability. Use it. The first simulation unfolded immediately. Lena found herself in a massive maze of crystalline structures. The walls glowed with faint light, casting reflections that shifted constantly. The task seemed simple at first: reach the center. But as she stepped forward, she noticed that the walls were not fixed. They moved subtly, shifting as if they were alive. Mistaking one path for another could trap her for hours. Lena paused and observed. She studied the reflections, noticing patterns in how the walls moved. Xipherians were faster, leaping and running without pause, often getting caught in loops or dead ends. Lena moved carefully, timing her steps and memorizing the subtle shifts. It was slow, but deliberate. She reached the center where a small holographic orb awaited, glowing green. When she touched it, the walls dissolved around her. Kale nodded approvingly. Good, you observe, you adapt. That is human strength. The next challenge was different. The projection shifted to an alien city, populated by holographic beings going about daily routines. Lena's task was to guide a group of human and Xipherian trainees through the city, completing objectives without alerting certain simulated authorities. It required planning, leadership, and quick decision-making. At first, the Xipherians tried to take charge, barking orders in a language Lena barely understood. But chaos quickly ensued. One trainee bumped into a holographic guard, triggering alarms. Lena realized she had to take a different approach. Humans were not physically dominant here, but they could communicate and coordinate. She gestured calmly, directing both humans and sympathetic Xipherians to split into smaller teams and move quietly along different paths. Her plan worked. The trainees reached their objectives efficiently, avoiding the simulated guards entirely. Kale watched silently, a faint glimmer of interest in his eyes. Lena felt a surge of confidence. Humans had their ways, unconventional but effective. The next trial tested memory and perception. Lena was shown a series of complex alien symbols, each changing subtly in shape and color. Her task was to memorize and replicate them in order. It was exhausting, especially as the symbols became increasingly intricate. Lena focused, closing her eyes briefly between rounds to visualize the shapes in her mind. Step by step, she reproduced the patterns, surprising even herself with how much she could retain. After completing the memory test, Kale introduced a simulation that combined all previous elements. Lena was in a forest that shifted into a city, which then transformed into an intricate maze. She had to make decisions, solve puzzles, and lead others, all simultaneously. Her pulse quickened, but she reminded herself to stay calm. She moved deliberately, observing everything, speaking clearly to guide the other trainees and keeping track of the subtle patterns in the environment. Hours passed. Lena felt her energy waning, but she refused to stop. Each challenge taught her something new about herself. Humans were not physically superior to Xipherians. They could not match their speed, their agility, or their strength. But humans could think differently, adapt quickly, and inspire cooperation. Lena's mind was a tool, sharpened by necessity, and she used it to navigate every obstacle. During a brief rest, Lena spoke quietly to a Xipherian trainee named Vera, one of the few who seemed willing to listen. "You think humans are weak," Lena said. "But we find ways to survive that others can't imagine." Vera tilted her head, her eyes curious. "You are different from the others," she admitted. "You see things we overlook. Perhaps humans have potential we did not expect." Lena smiled faintly. "We survive because we never stop trying. That's all." Kale observed this exchange silently from a distance. His expression remained unreadable, but inside a conflict stirred. He had trained countless species, yet humans, small and fragile as they seemed, had an unusual strength, a strength he could not yet define. Lena had passed tests he believed impossible. She had led, observed, and solved in ways no alien trainee had before. The final trial of the day combined logic, strategy, and endurance. Lena was placed in a simulation where multiple paths led to success, but every path had consequences. She had to choose which route to take, balancing speed with accuracy, and lead the trainees to complete the objectives before time ran out. Every decision mattered, every misstep could waste precious minutes. Lena moved carefully. She remembered patterns from earlier trials, anticipated obstacles, and guided the trainees efficiently. At one point, a small holographic bridge collapsed. Lena quickly improvised, signaling others to create a safe path using nearby structures. By combining observation, planning, and quick thinking, she managed to reach the end before any other trainee. The simulation ended, and the chamber dissolved into soft light. Kale approached her, his expression calm but with an intensity she could feel. "You completed the trials in a manner I did not anticipate. You are faster to adapt, more thoughtful, and more resilient than I expected." Lena felt a mix of pride and exhaustion. "Thank you," she said simply. Kale studied her. "Humans may hold more potential than we realize. But remember, Lena, these trials are only the beginning. You have succeeded because you observed, because you adapted, because you refused to quit. Tomorrow, the challenges will grow more complex. You will face tasks that test your understanding of not just skill, but morality, intuition, and leadership under pressure. You are ready, but the journey will not be easy." Lena nodded, though her mind was already buzzing with anticipation. She had learned that humans could survive by thinking differently, by finding solutions others could not see. She had learned that leadership was not about commanding, but about guiding and inspiring. And she had learned that endurance was not just physical, but mental. As the day ended, Lena found a quiet corner of the observation deck. She looked out at the swirling storms of the gas giant below. The colors shifted from deep blues to bright purples, reflecting the station's lights. It was beautiful and strange, a reminder of how far she had come and how far she had yet to go. Sleep came slowly. Lena dreamed of puzzles that shifted and twisted, of forests that became cities, of paths that changed as she walked. Yet in every dream, she found a way forward. She realized that her mind had become as agile as her body, and that humans had a gift no alien could fully understand: the ability to see opportunity where others saw obstacles. When she awoke, the station was bathed in a gentle light. Lena stood at the edge of the observation deck, taking a deep breath. Kale's words echoed in her mind. "The journey will not be easy." She smiled softly. Humans thrived in the face of challenge. They adapted, they persisted, and they grew stronger when pushed beyond their limits. Today, Lena would face new trials, challenges designed to test not just her body or mind, but her judgment, her intuition, and her spirit. And she was ready. The Zypherian training station hummed around her, alive with energy, with lessons, with the potential for growth. Lena stepped forward, her heart steady, her mind sharp. She would continue to adapt, to observe, to lead. She would prove that humans were not weak. They were resilient, they were clever, and they were capable of greatness beyond what anyone had yet imagined. The trials were only the beginning, and Lena was ready to meet them head-on. Lena woke with a sense of quiet determination. The trials of the last 2 days had pushed her body and mind to their limits, but she felt a spark of confidence growing inside her. She knew that the next challenge would be harder, more complex. Kale had hinted at it the day before, saying this trial would combine everything she had learned so far: physical skill, mental agility, and strategic thinking. Lena welcomed the thought. Humans thrived when pushed, and she had no intention of backing down. The hallway to the training chamber was alive with soft light. Other trainees moved alongside her, some whispering about yesterday's successes and failures. The Zypherians were fast and confident, but Lena noticed a subtle unease among some of them. They were used to being the best, yet a human had outperformed many of their expectations. She kept her focus, ignoring the murmurs, and walked steadily to the chamber. Kale waited at the entrance, arms crossed. His expression was calm, but his gaze was sharp, almost studying her. "Today," he said, You will face a combined trial. You must use every skill you have learned. Strength, agility, strategy, observation, and leadership will all be tested. You will not succeed alone. Cooperation is necessary. You must lead when needed and follow when necessary. Only one who balances all can prevail. The chamber opened into a vast space. The floor was polished and reflective, stretching out to a horizon that seemed infinite. Holographic projections shimmered around the room, creating a massive alien landscape. Forests merged into mountains, rivers flowed through cities, and paths twisted unpredictably. Lena's task was immediately clear. Navigate this ever-changing environment, solve problems, and reach the end point faster than any other trainee. As she stepped forward, she noticed other trainees already moving. Xipherians leaped across impossible gaps, their movements precise and confident. Humans struggled, some stopping to adjust to the shifting environment. Lena remembered what she had learned. Speed alone was not enough. Observation and planning would guide her. The first obstacle appeared quickly. A series of floating platforms hovered above a glowing river. One wrong step, and she would fall into the simulation's hazard zone and have to restart. Lena studied the platforms. Each one moved at a slightly different rhythm. Xipherians jumped without pause, but Lena counted carefully, timing her steps. Step by step, she moved across, landing safely on the other side. Kale observed quietly from a raised platform. His eyes followed her closely. He had seen many species attempt this challenge, and most had failed at the first obstacle. Lena, small and human, had succeeded. It was not the first time she had surprised him, and he felt a spark of curiosity. Next, the simulation shifted. Trees twisted into bridges, rivers formed mazes, and holographic creatures moved unpredictably through the environment. Lena was no longer alone. Other trainees, both human and Xipherian, joined the simulation. Their goal was to reach the central point together. Cooperation would be key. Lena took a deep breath and began speaking clearly, guiding the human trainees first. Follow my lead, watch the patterns in the bridges, step carefully. The humans listened, and slowly they began to move in sync. A Xipherian trainee tried to take charge, barking commands in their sharp language. Lena understood enough to follow their instructions, but she gently guided the group to combine their efforts. The fastest alone could fail, but together they could succeed. A gap appeared in the path ahead. The bridge had shifted too far to cross with a single jump. Lena quickly scanned the environment. Nearby, a fallen log floated in the river, partially hidden by mist. Use the log, she instructed. Step carefully, one at a time. The group followed her instructions. Step by step, they crossed safely. Lena's heart raced, not from fear, but from the thrill of seeing the group succeed. Leadership, she realized, was not about controlling others. It was about guiding them to use their strengths. The next challenge tested memory and strategy. A series of glowing symbols appeared on the ground, forming patterns that shifted as the group moved. Lena recognized the shapes from the memory trials the day before. She studied them quickly, noting subtle differences. We need to step on the green symbols only, she said. Red symbols reset the path. The trainees followed her directions carefully. Step by step, they navigated the shifting patterns, reaching the next area unscathed. As the simulation continued, the environment became more complex. Rivers twisted into labyrinths, forests became mazes, and cities appeared with moving walls and gates. Lena's mind raced, analyzing every pattern, calculating every step. She noticed that the Xipherians who relied solely on speed often got trapped or forced to restart. Lena slowed her pace, observing, planning, adapting. Midway through, a group of holographic creatures blocked their path. They were not dangerous, but they moved unpredictably, forcing the trainees to pause and find a safe route. Lena studied their movements and noticed a pattern. The creatures moved in groups, leaving gaps at certain intervals. Wait for the group to pass, she instructed. Then move quickly but carefully. The trainees obeyed, and they slipped through without incident. Lena smiled faintly. Observation and patience were powerful tools. Kale watched silently, impressed. Lena had grown beyond what he expected. She was no longer just enduring, she was thriving. Her human traits, curiosity, adaptability, intuition were guiding the entire group. Other Xipherian trainees began to notice, some reluctantly admiring her ability to lead. The final section of the simulation tested endurance and decision-making. A massive maze appeared, filled with puzzles and multiple routes to the exit. Time was limited and each path had consequences. Lena analyzed quickly. The shortest route seemed blocked by a shifting wall. The longer route required cooperation. She guided the group, balancing speed with caution. "We must split into 2 teams," she said. "One team creates a path for the other. We work together, not against each other." The trainees followed. Lena led one team, carefully solving each puzzle as they moved. She watched the other team navigate their path, adjusting her instructions as needed. Step by step, they advanced, solving puzzles, crossing obstacles, and moving closer to the central point. At one moment, a bridge collapsed under the weight of a holographic structure. Lena acted quickly, signaling trainees to use nearby platforms and logs to create a safe crossing. It required coordination, timing, and clear communication. Slowly, they crossed safely. Lena felt a surge of pride. The group trusted her, and together they were achieving something that none could have done alone. Finally, they reached the central point. A holographic orb awaited, glowing brightly. Lena stepped forward, touching it first. The simulation dissolved into soft light. She turned to see the other trainees, human and Xipherian alike, standing behind her. Some smiled, some nodded respectfully. Lena felt a warmth inside her chest. Cooperation, observation, and persistence had triumphed over raw speed or strength. Humans were small, but they were capable. Kale approached, his expression calm but intense. "You have completed the trial in a manner no human has before," he said. "You combined strategy, observation, adaptability, and leadership. You led, yet you followed. You endured, yet you guided. You have grown stronger than I expected." Lena felt exhausted but exhilarated. "I just kept trying," she said simply. Kale studied her, his eyes thoughtful. "There is more to come, Lena. You have proven your potential, but the universe tests more than skill and strategy. Tomorrow, you will face challenges that test your understanding of morality, intuition, and trust. You are ready, but the road ahead will push you further than you imagine." Lena nodded. The words did not scare her. They motivated her. She had learned that humans survived not because they were the strongest or the fastest, but because they could adapt, cooperate, and persist. Every challenge was an opportunity to discover what they were truly capable of. As she rested that evening, Lena thought about the group she had led. They were different species, different sizes, different strengths, yet together they had succeeded. Cooperation was more than sharing tasks. It was understanding, observing, and guiding others toward a common goal. Lena realized that this trial was not just about skill, it was about connection. Humans had a way of bringing others together, even in a room full of strangers, even in a universe full of the unknown. Sleep came slowly. Lena dreamed of shifting forests, glowing cities, and rivers that changed course with each step. She saw herself leading, guiding, adapting, always finding a way forward. She understood that her growth was not just for herself. It was for everyone who looked at humans and doubted their potential. The spark inside her burned brighter than ever. When morning arrived, Lena stood at the observation window, gazing at the swirling storms of the gas giant below. The colors shifted from deep indigo to bright violet, reflecting the station's soft lights. She clenched her fists lightly. The trials were far from over, but she was ready. She would continue to adapt, to lead, to think, and to endure. Humans were not weak. They were clever, resilient, and capable of greatness. The Xipherian training station hummed around her, alive with challenge, opportunity, and growth. Lena stepped forward, ready to face whatever came next. Her journey had only begun. Lena woke to a quiet hum that felt different from usual. There was a tension in the air, subtle but noticeable. The Xipherian training station seemed unchanged, yet she sensed something shifting beneath the calm. Kale had promised new trials today, ones that would test intuition, trust, and decision-making. Lena felt a flutter of excitement mixed with caution. She had grown stronger in the previous trials, but the hint of something unusual made her alert. As she walked to the training chamber, she noticed a few Xipherian trainees whispering among themselves. Their glances were quick, furtive, and filled with unease. Lena's mind worked fast. Humans had an advantage here. Intuition and observation were as important as strength or knowledge. Something was happening, and she needed to watch closely. Kale stood at the entrance, calm as always, but Lena noticed a flicker of tension in his posture. He looked at her and said, "Today, the trial is different. You will navigate situations that test your judgment, your perception of others, and your ability to act under uncertainty. You will face decisions where the right choice is not always clear. Your understanding of loyalty, trust, and morality will guide you." Lena nodded. She understood immediately that this would be more complex than any physical or mental test. Humans had a unique ability to sense motives, intentions, and possibilities. That skill might become her greatest advantage today. The chamber opened into a sprawling city, unlike anything Lena had seen before. Towering structures shifted subtly, and streets wound unpredictably. Holographic citizens walked about, interacting in ways that seemed random yet purposeful. Lena's first task appeared, a set of objectives displayed in floating holographic panels. She had to guide herself and other trainees to reach several points while making choices that affected the simulation. Each decision would change the environment and the behavior of the holographic citizens. As she began, Lena noticed that some of the Xipherian trainees were not following the spirit of the trial. They rushed through paths that seemed shorter but ignored the consequences. Holographic citizens became confused, obstacles appeared, and progress slowed. Lena realized immediately some of her fellow trainees might be testing limits, or worse, undermining the simulation to gain advantage. She paused and thought. Humans could turn disadvantage into opportunity. Instead of competing blindly, Lena began to observe the behavior of the other trainees. She noticed patterns, timing, and subtle reactions of the holographic citizens. Then she acted. "Follow my instructions," she said to the humans nearby. "We move carefully, not quickly. Watch for the signals and step when I indicate." The group listened, cautiously at first, then with growing trust. Lena guided them around obstacles, avoiding errors that slowed the others. Slowly, they advanced through the simulation, solving problems and moving efficiently. Lena realized something deeper. Success depended not just on her skills, but on her ability to inspire trust and cooperation. Midway through, the simulation changed again. A holographic communication network appeared, requiring trainees to send and receive information accurately. Miscommunication would create delays and mistakes. Lena studied the network carefully. She noticed that certain trainees were sending confusing instructions, deliberately or not. She adjusted the signals, clarifying directions and ensuring the humans and Xipherians who followed her moved smoothly. Kale watched silently, observing her decisions. He saw more than just success, he saw leadership. Lena did not dominate, she guided, adjusted, and adapted. Her human instincts allowed her to anticipate problems before they arose. It was an unusual strength, one Kale had not expected. The simulation then introduced unexpected complications. Portions of the city became unstable, shifting rapidly. Paths that had been clear moments ago were blocked. Lena's group needed to adapt instantly. She noticed a small pattern in the shifting paths, similar to the strategy she had used in the earlier memory trials. "Step here, then immediately left," she instructed, timing movements carefully. Each step required precise observation and quick adaptation. Slowly but surely, her group advanced. Then Lena noticed something troubling. A few Xipherian trainees were behaving strangely, bypassing objectives and acting in ways that seemed coordinated. They were testing her, or perhaps manipulating the simulation in a way she had not anticipated. Lena realized that this was no ordinary trial. Someone had modified the challenge to observe how she would react under unexpected pressures. She paused, considering her options. Panic would slow her. Hesitation could cost the group. Humans thrived under challenge, especially when thinking creatively. Lena adjusted her plan. She decided to use the distraction to her advantage. "Focus on the core objectives," she instructed her group. "Ignore the distractions and trust each other. We move together." By following her directions, her team navigated past the interference without slowing. They reached a central plaza where the final objective awaited. A glowing orb floated above a platform, marking success. Lena approached first and touched it. The simulation ended, dissolving into soft light. The group around her breathed a collective sigh of relief. They had succeeded not because they were fastest, but because they had worked together, followed guidance, and adapted. Kale stepped forward, his usual calm demeanor shadowed by something Lena could not identify. "You have succeeded," he said. "But the path you followed was not what I originally intended for this trial." His voice carried a quiet weight. "Someone has interfered with the simulation. The trial was altered. Your ability to remain focused, to trust your instincts, and to guide others is remarkable. You have surpassed what many expected of humans." Lena's mind raced. She had sensed something unusual, and now she understood. There was a hidden layer to the trials, one that tested more than skill. It tested trust and resilience. Whoever had modified the trial wanted to see how a human would respond. Lena felt a flicker of anger, but also determination. She would not be a pawn. Humans had a unique strength. They could think independently, adapt quickly, and turn challenges into opportunities. After the simulation, Kale guided her to a quieter corridor. "Lena," he said quietly, "you are not only a strong trainee, you are perceptive. You notice things others miss. You sense patterns and anticipate actions. That is why you succeeded today. But be aware, there are forces within the station that do not wish to see a human excel. You may encounter betrayal or manipulation. Trust carefully, observe constantly, and remember that humans have strengths others do not." Lena nodded, her mind alert. The realization settled in. The Zypherian training station was not just a place of structured trials. It was also a place of politics, of hidden agendas, and of subtle tests designed to challenge not just skill, but character. She had expected challenges. She had not expected hidden schemes. As the day ended, Lena found a quiet observation deck. The gas giant below swirled with deep blues and purples, light reflecting softly off the clouds. She looked out at the vast expanse, thinking. Humans had survived against countless challenges, and they had thrived where others expected failure. She realized that her strength was not just in what she could do alone, but in how she could influence others, guide them, and inspire cooperation. Sleep came slowly. Lena dreamed of shifting cities, complex paths, and hidden observers. In her dreams, she navigated each obstacle with calm focus. She guided those around her, avoided distractions, and adapted to every new change. She understood something fundamental. The greatest challenges were not just the visible trials, but the hidden ones, the tests of character and resilience that no one could see until the moment of choice. When she awoke, the station hummed with life. Lena walked to the training chamber, her mind alert and prepared. She knew the upcoming trials would be harder, more complex, and perhaps designed to test her in ways she could not predict. But she also knew this. Humans had an advantage that could not be measured in speed, strength, or intelligence alone. Humans had adaptability, intuition, creativity, and the ability to trust wisely while observing keenly. Kale met her at the entrance. His expression was serious. "Tomorrow, the trials will push your understanding further. You may encounter challenges that seem impossible, but remember what you learned today. Trust, observation, leadership, and patience are powerful tools. You have grown far beyond expectations, but the path ahead will test the limits of your perception and your judgment." Lena smiled faintly, feeling the familiar spark of determination. Humans had survived against countless odds, adapting, observing, and persevering. She had learned to anticipate, guide, and adapt to hidden challenges. She had learned to inspire others, earning trust even among beings far stronger than herself. The Zypherian training station seemed quieter now, but Lena knew that beneath the calm lay countless unseen trials. She welcomed them. Each challenge was an opportunity to discover what humans were capable of, to show that small, determined beings could endure, adapt, and succeed where others expected failure. She stepped toward her room, ready to rest but fully aware that tomorrow's trial could change everything. She had discovered a truth that others often overlooked. The human mind was clever, adaptable, and resilient. No manipulation, no betrayal, no hidden scheme could diminish that. Humans thrived under pressure, and Lena intended to continue proving it. The station hummed softly, alive with secrets, challenges, and potential. Lena felt ready to face whatever came next. Her journey had revealed not only her own strength, but the hidden layers of the Zypherian training station. The challenges were no longer just tests. They were a web of observation, strategy, and hidden agendas. Lena understood this clearly. She had to remain vigilant, trust wisely, and rely on her human ingenuity. The future held uncertainty, but Lena welcomed it. Every obstacle, every hidden challenge, every test of trust was an opportunity to learn, adapt, and grow. And she would. Lena woke early, the hum of the Zypherian training station surrounding her like a living pulse. Today felt different. She could sense it in the air, in the way the soft lights flickered across the walls, and even in the faint vibration beneath her feet. The trials she had endured were only the beginning, Kale had said. Today, she would face the final test, the ultimate challenge that would determine not just her fate, but the place of humanity in the Xipherian world. She dressed quickly, her movements precise, and made her way to the central chamber. Other trainees were already gathering, Xipherians and humans alike. Some looked confident, others anxious. Lena noticed subtle tension in the air. Everyone knew that this trial was different. There was no room for mistakes, no margin for error. Yet Lena felt a calm confidence. Humans had a way of thriving in the face of the unknown, adapting when others faltered. Kale stood at the front, his expression as composed as ever, but Lena noticed a flicker of something new in his eyes, respect. "Today," he began, "you will face the ultimate trial. It will test your mind, your judgment, your adaptability, and your ability to lead under uncertainty. This is no ordinary simulation. It will challenge your perception, your decisions, and your understanding of trust. Only those who can rise above fear and hesitation will succeed." The chamber shifted, and Lena found herself standing on a platform high above a vast holographic landscape. Rivers flowed into valleys, forests rose and fell in waves, and cities stretched out in patterns that twisted and turned. At first, she felt a moment of hesitation. The scale was immense, but then she reminded herself of everything she had learned. Observation, patience, cooperation, adaptation. These were her tools. These were human strengths. The first objective appeared, a series of interconnected paths and challenges. Lena could see other trainees beginning their attempts, some rushing forward, some pausing. She analyzed the scene carefully. The fastest path was not necessarily the correct one. She needed to think several steps ahead, anticipate obstacles, and guide any humans or allies she could influence. Her first step was a delicate balance across narrow floating platforms. The platforms shifted slightly with each movement, requiring precision and focus. Lena stepped carefully, calculating each movement. Her body and mind worked together in perfect rhythm. As she moved, she noticed other trainees struggling, some rushing, some hesitating too long. She realized quickly that speed alone was not enough. Halfway across the first platform, a holographic barrier appeared unexpectedly, blocking the path forward. Lena stopped and studied it. There were subtle patterns in its movement. Timing was essential. She observed a small Xipherian trainee attempting to leap blindly through, only to be forced backward by the barrier. Lena called out, "Watch the rhythm, wait for the pattern before moving." The other trainees hesitated but followed her advice. Step by step, they moved together, reaching the other side safely. Lena smiled faintly. Humans thrived on observation and adaptation, and once again it proved to be a strength no Xipherian could fully anticipate. The landscape shifted again. Now they were in a vast maze with glowing symbols scattered across the paths. Some symbols glowed green, others red. Step on a red symbol and the path reset. Lena recognized the pattern from previous trials. Memory and strategy were required, not brute force. She guided her group carefully, recalling sequences and predicting the correct path. Xipherians tried to rely on instinct, but some misstepped, causing delays. Lena's human intuition and careful observation allowed her group to advance steadily. Midway through the maze, another challenge appeared. A series of holographic creatures moved through the paths, not dangerous, but blocking certain routes. Trainees had to choose between waiting for the creatures to pass or finding an alternate path. Lena analyzed the creatures' movements, noticing a pattern. "Move in sequence," she instructed. "One at a time with a small pause between steps. Follow the timing and we will pass safely." Her instructions worked. Step by step, the group navigated through without error. Lena felt a quiet satisfaction. Leadership was not about commanding or controlling. It was about observing, guiding, and inspiring trust. Humans had an instinct for this, one that allowed them to turn challenges into opportunities. The simulation shifted again. Now they were in a vast city, streets twisting and shifting as if alive. At the center floated a glowing orb, the final objective. To reach it, they had to solve a series of interconnected puzzles, each affecting the other. Timing, strategy, and cooperation were crucial. Lena surveyed the scene carefully, noting the sequence of tasks and the positions of the other trainees. Some Xipherians tried to solve the puzzles alone, moving quickly but making mistakes. Lena saw that working together was the only way to succeed. She organized the group into teams, assigning tasks according to strengths. Humans focused on analysis and pattern recognition, while some Xipherians used their agility to manipulate elements that required speed. Step by step, They progressed, solving each puzzle in sequence. As they approached the final puzzle, Lena noticed something unusual. A few Zypherians were subtly altering the environment, attempting to create obstacles. She realized that this was more than a trial, it was a test of judgment and awareness. She signaled her group to focus on the objective and ignore distractions. Observation and calm action became their greatest tools. The final puzzle was a complex network of symbols and pathways, requiring simultaneous decisions from multiple trainees. Lena coordinated the group carefully, instructing each person where to act and when. Step by step, they aligned the paths correctly, symbols glowing green as each decision was made. The orb at the center of the city floated closer, signaling success. Lena took a deep breath and stepped forward first, touching the orb. The simulation ended in a soft wave of light. Lena's group stood together, breathing in quiet relief. They had succeeded not because of speed or strength alone, but because of observation, adaptation, cooperation, and judgment. Humans had once again proven their unique abilities. Kale appeared beside her. His expression was calm, but Lena could sense deep respect. "You have completed the ultimate trial," he said. "You have demonstrated skill, intelligence, adaptability, leadership, and judgment. You have faced unexpected challenges, interference, and deception, yet you remained focused and effective. You have proven the value of humans beyond expectation." Lena felt a quiet pride. She had not done this alone. Humans were capable, yes, but they also thrived when they could cooperate, when they could trust wisely, and when they could observe keenly. Today, she had shown that humanity's potential was not measured by size, speed, or raw power, but by cleverness, perseverance, and adaptability. Kale's gaze shifted as he spoke. "There is one final matter." He gestured to a holographic display that had not appeared before. Images of Zypherian officials, simulations, and secret experiments filled the space. Lena realized immediately that there had been a hidden layer to the trials. Some factions had been observing her not merely as a trainee, but as a test subject in an experiment to evaluate humans for potential use in broader Zypherian plans. Her chest tightened for a moment, but she stayed calm. Panic or anger would not help. Humans thrived under pressure. Lena examined the display carefully, noting the patterns, the inconsistencies, and the subtle signs of interference. She understood what needed to be done. Observation, strategy, and action were her tools. She addressed Kale calmly. "I see what was happening. These trials were altered, perhaps to measure how humans respond under manipulation. I understand now why some tasks felt different. The humans were tested not just for skill, but for character and judgment." Kale's expression shifted slightly. He had anticipated this, but hearing it articulated so clearly impressed him. "Indeed, you have understood more than many before you. Few beings could perceive the hidden tests and respond effectively. Humans have a unique strength, intuition combined with adaptability." Lena nodded. "I trust my instincts, but I also observe. Humans survive because we adapt, not because we dominate, and we help each other when needed. That is our strength." Kale studied her silently. Then he said, "You have proven not only your own capability, but the potential of your species. Humans are worthy of respect and partnership, not only in these trials, but in broader endeavors. You have exceeded expectations. You are not just a trainee. You are a representative of your kind." Lena felt warmth and pride. She had begun this journey unsure of herself, small and human among towering alien beings, yet she had adapted, observed, guided, and led. Today, she had shown that humanity could endure, excel, and even inspire respect among those far more advanced. As she walked through the observation deck later, she looked down at the swirling storms of the gas giant below. The colors reflected softly against the station walls. She thought about everything she had learned: adaptation, observation, trust, leadership, and perseverance. She realized that these qualities, often overlooked by others, were the true markers of strength. The other trainees began to acknowledge her, not just as a competitor, but as a leader. Some Zypherians nodded with respect, humans smiled with gratitude, and even Kale's quiet approval felt like a recognition she had never expected. Lena understood that this was more than a personal victory. It was a proof of humanity's potential in a universe that often underestimated them. Sleep that night was peaceful. Lena dreamed of galaxies, of shifting cities, forests, and rivers, and of challenges that changed with every step. In her dreams, she moved confidently, guided others, adapted instantly, and solved problems that seemed impossible. She woke feeling stronger, not just in body, but in mind and spirit. The Xipherian training station had been a place of challenge, observation, and hidden tests. Lena had not only survived, but had thrived, turning every obstacle into an opportunity. She understood now that the trials were never meant to break her. They were meant to reveal what humans could achieve when pushed beyond expectation. When she finally returned to the central chamber, Kale approached once more. "Lena," he said, "you have passed every trial not by raw strength, but by perception, adaptability, and leadership. You have proven that humans are capable of rising to the greatest challenges, even in ways no other species can. Your journey has ended, but for humanity, this is only the beginning. The universe now knows your potential." Lena smiled, feeling a sense of quiet triumph. She had come as a trainee, unsure and small. She left not only as a survivor, but as a symbol of what humanity could accomplish when pushed to its limits. Her journey had revealed the depth of human ingenuity, perseverance, and adaptability. As she looked out at the stars beyond the station, Lena understood something profound. The trials had ended, but the real journey was just beginning. Humans had been underestimated, yet here she stood, proof of their resilience and cleverness. The galaxy was vast, full of opportunity and challenge, and humans were ready to meet it. She stepped forward, ready for the future, confident that humanity's spark could endure any test. The universe was waiting, and Lena knew that humans would rise, adapt, and thrive among the stars.